keep it alive through these lines I write. I keep it live cause I thrive. I might just blow your mind tonight. I'm so hyped, but it's no hype. From this height, it's direct hits on sight. I'm your type, lend me your ears to show you that there's something in me. I'm not giving up, I'm standing right here, holding these days hostage. And I'll make this my year. We turning fear into love, and the love's in the air. I love doing this cause nothing compares. Nothing can share that same type of feeling when you feeling them flares. They can't catch it, it's havoc. I rip to a tear, switch the scenario. My stereos, I leave them impaired. Variables start to change and they're all in my range. I just gotta grab it, it's all mathematics. Every step is drastic, I make it fantastic. I'm trying to take your breath away. Asthmatic.
This is live through the stereo. Go and let it blow, blow through the stereo. I'ma let them know through the stereo. Yo, here we go through the stereo, stereo. This is live through the stereo. Go and let it blow, blow through the stereo. I'ma let them know through the stereo. Yo, here we go through the stereo, stereo.
Yeah, just nod your head with it, so explicit and vivid. Every image is intricate, intimate. I put my all into it, no scrimmage and no rules. I'm a pro tool, hear my heartbeat, beat into the vocals. I'm so loco, lost my mind, oh no. It's ponderoso, dope, so no overdose, cause it's dope, yo. Man, this is house grown, mixed with some milestones. So I let the style flow down like the Dow Jones, bringing it with some foul tones, letting the crowd know we getting loud, so it's eardrum rudiments. Yeah, we bring it rude again. Move, little hooligan. Music for tuning in, full time to the 10. I'm on my clock like I told you. I'm doing this for dreams we pursue.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Anti-Media Radio. Once again with your host, Nick Bernabe, here on UCY.tv. Glad to be back with you. Hopefully everyone caught our show on Wednesday. We had the Second Generation Outlaws, which are two members of a new entourage that was formerly part of Tupac's original entourage back in the day, and they're carrying on the Tupac tradition and trying to put out some new revolutionary music that kind of carries on that message. We had a special show on Wednesday hosted by John Vibes, and he talked to them, so hopefully everyone tuning in tonight was here for that and heard it, or you can go back and find it on UCY TV on YouTube and just look for the Anti-Media with Tupac entourage, and you'll find it. It was pretty interesting, to say the least. A lot of insight into the music industry, a lot of personal information about Tupac and things of that nature. So it was really cool, really interesting. Once again, it's the Anti-Media Radio, and you can find us here on UCY, YouTube, on the website, theantimedia.org. Either way, there's plenty of ways of going about getting a hold of us and hearing what we have to say. And also, you can join the conversation as well, because that's what it's all about here. We're trying to involve everybody. Everybody's got a unique perspective. There's news coming from all over the place. There's a lot of angles that we may have overlooked or information that we may not have seen yet. So anybody wanting to get involved in this radio tonight, you can call us at 718-717-8296, and we'll take your calls and we'll talk about anything. We're hopefully about the news, but all kinds of stuff we cover here on the Anti-Media. And we're going to start it off tonight with just a bunch of news stories, because on Wednesday, since we didn't have the typical news story, we didn't really get to cover many of this crazy news that's going on all over the world at all times, basically. So first, I want to introduce our panel. We have my longtime co-host, DB Schwartz. What's up, DB?
What's up, Nick? Just looking on, as always, at things going on. Crazy stuff always happening.
It never stops, man. It never stops. We're also joined by Jake Anderson. What's up, Jake?
Not much. Just putting up my my Joe Biden signs. Yeah, just pro-war criminal 2016.
Yeah, man. I mean, isn't that what it's all about? We got to support the next puppet, and it looks like Biden may be the guy. I mean, I don't really see anybody being happy about Biden running. But the media is telling us that he's going to have a lot of support and that he's going to do this and do that. I mean,
so
how much pill popping do you think is going on at Hillary headquarters tonight?
Hey, they're gonna run on the Silver Fox ticket, Biden and McCain.
Please don't. I just had a tuna melt. Please don't make me vomit it up.
Oh man, the tuna melt's not bad, right? We're also joined on the call tonight by Claire Bernish. How you doing, Claire?
Yeah, how are you? I'm having one of those days.
Well, it's a Monday after all, right? So it's not that unexpected, I guess.
No.
And thank you, everyone that's not watching Monday Night Football right now and instead tuning into the show. You guys are the real MVPs out there.
Oh God, I'm missing Monday Night Football. I gotta go, Nick. See you later.
Yeah, I mean, I don't even know who's playing tonight, but I'm sure there's a game on, and I'm sure it's interesting to some people out there. But if anything, the game on and have the radio playing, turn off the audio for the game. There you go. Nice little compromise. Anyway, like I was saying, there's so much news to go over, and coming right from the anti-media, first I want to talk about Nestle because there's now a lawsuit being waged against the U.S. Forest Service to put a stop to what Nestle's been doing over in down in California. And, of course, it's not limited to California. They're doing this all over the country, and they're doing it all over the world. Anyway, Claire's been doing a months-long investigation of Nestle. One of your stories, Claire, made it to the front page of Reddit. It was about how Nestle is only paying like $560 a year to get like 27 million gallons of fresh water out of this one location in Southern California in the middle of a drought. Keep in mind, and that it's just the most outrageous thing. 27 million gallons for like $500. It's egregious. And, the thing about it for people in California, if I get caught washing my car during the day out in the parking lot here and a cop rolls up on me, I get fined $500. It's a $500 ticket. If you get caught watering your lawn during the day or, in certain neighborhoods, it's like, oh, you can only water your lawn on Tuesdays and Fridays or whatever. They give you a designated time where you're allowed to, like, water your lawn. That's a $500 ticket. But Nestle only pays like $500 for 27 million gallons of water. Anyway, this lawsuit is coming in, and it could very well put a stop to it. Claire, what can you tell us about this lawsuit?
Well, it's finally somebody took up the bait that we kind of dangled with the other articles. There is plenty to actually sue Nestle directly. But what these people are doing is actually suing the Forest Service to stop Nestle from pulling water out of Arrowhead Springs in San Bernardino National Forest. So what would happen is it is an injunction that looks like it has possibly some future references for collecting damages, like for some sort of like monetary lawsuit in the language. And ostensibly, since the Forest Service gives permission for Nestle to draw the water from their water rights from the forest, then they can actually stop them as well. People have been calling for that for a very long time. When they found out that the permit had expired in 1988, and they had sort of a verbal gentleman's agreement between Nestle and the Forest Service going forward that they would pay $524 a year to extend the permit that expired in 1988 as long as they stuck to the structures of that permit. There's so many problems with that, I don't even know where to begin. Not the least of which, they're not really drawing spring water to begin with, even though that's what their product is labeled. So, any number of reasons, this is a fantastic development.
Nice. Yeah, that's great news. So there's an organization that's like spearheading this lawsuit, right?
Yes. I'm trying to look back. I'm sorry. I'm having a momentary lapse of memory here. First of all, the Story of Stuff is the project that put together a brief video kind of detailing all the different people that I've talked to. For one, they interview a couple of the ex-Forest Service people who've given me information, and it explains the story a little bit further. Let's see here. The Courage Campaign Institute, and I can't find it. I cannot remember who's bringing it. Do you have that handy?
Well, it's mostly the Story of Stuff project, as far as I can
Right.
tell, and then
But
Center
that
for
was- those are two
Biological
different-
Diversity.
Right. That's what I was trying to remember. The Center for Biological Diversity is kind of spearheading the lawsuit. They're hoping that what will happen is that Nestle will be forced to stop drawing water immediately while they have the environmental impact studies done, which have been, we've needed those since, the permit expired, but especially since 2003. This is just like the best development that could possibly have happened from all the investigations going on into Nestle's practices in the forest. People are outraged that they get to draw basically as much as they want to and profit as much as they want to, while everybody else is fined $500 for just splashing a few drops off the side. So.
Well, this is good news. This is one of the rare occasions where it's like, look, we have some actually good news for you guys. It's not like our government's trying to get us into another war, at least not in this particular news story. But this is good news, and there's another little bit of good news as well. Hopefully this lawsuit pans out against Nestle. We're all going to be watching that, and we're going to be providing updates on it. Whenever anything happens, we'll be letting everyone know. We'll probably be covering it. Claire's been doing a great job of covering Nestle very closely for the last several months. And as I mentioned, some of these stories have gone so viral that it's really, I don't want to take the credit or anything here, but I think that, Claire, I think your articles have definitely played a role in getting this lawsuit going. So that's really, really awesome, and we're really happy to have you on the team and all that good stuff.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
So we have another little bit of kind of good news here that I actually covered on Saturday morning, and this one went viral as well, and it just so happened that it became like the third most viral article on the internet on Saturday, and it was just, kind of mind-blowing to me because the stuff I typically write about just doesn't really go very far because it's really really in-depth, like geopolitical analysis and stuff like that. That's the stuff I enjoy writing about, and only a few people want to read that. I know a lot of people listening tonight on the show enjoy hearing about that stuff, but for the general public, it's pretty much, a lot of times it's like, oh, I don't want to hear about that. Anyway, wrote this article about McDonald's, and it's kind of just compounding on this idea about how McDonald's is just going through a really tough economic time right now. And yeah, it's still a huge billion-dollar company. They've got thousands and thousands of locations. In fact, it's got 14,300 of them in the United States alone. But back in April, Kerry reported on the anti-media that they're closing down about 700 locations. But since then, they've been dealing with just more and more, just a major slowdown in not only their own sales, but in the fast food industry as a whole is really experiencing some major issues. There's the whole thing about Taco Bell now having like a breakfast menu, and so that's cutting into McDonald's bottom line, as well as the fact that people are choosing more healthy options like Chipotle, which is of course non-GMO, and like what's it called, Five Guys, which is a more like boutique style. I wouldn't call it healthier, but better ingredients, fresher ingredients and things like that. And so it turns out that it seems like, this is a growing trend here. And I think a lot of people have noticed it coming, of course, with the growing organic food industry and, the whole March Against Monsanto thing. There was a huge march for food justice over the weekend in Washington, D.C. And so the movement is just continuing to snowball. And it's starting to show in the bottom lines of a lot of these corporations. McDonald's looks like it's really taking the brunt of a lot of this action. And according to there was a survey that went out by the Nomura Group, which is like a financial advisory firm, and they put a survey out to a bunch of franchise owners of McDonald's. So these are the people that own like the individual locations, and a lot of the franchise owners own like 10, 20 different locations or more. A lot of them are just like one family owns it, or one person owns it. Anyway, they sent a survey out to these people, and it came back with some really scary, not scary, but really interesting results, to say the least. But one quote, it says, "We are in the throes of a deep depression and nothing is changing." One respondee speculated that up to 30% of the operators are now insolvent. meaning that they're not even making money anymore at a lot of these locations. At least that's what a lot of people are speculating. And one person went as far as saying that McDonald's is facing its final days. And so, this is kind of an insight into what people that own these McDonald's locations are thinking. And a lot of them are blaming it on the corporate management at McDonald's and all these failed ploys that they've been doing on marketing. They just started rolling out that all-day breakfast thing just, I think, last week. And so, these people are even complaining about that as well, because it's like they keep on trying all these little marketing ploys to try to stop the bleeding, because they're losing customers, they're losing money. But to me, I think this is kind of a positive note here, because it shows that people are learning about the food and learning to make better decisions on the food. And, overall, this is really good for everybody, because it's less and less people that are going to have diabetes and all these other issues that come along with eating bad foods. Now, of course, just cutting out McDonald's isn't going to do it. People, need to have a much more healthier lifestyle of eating in general. And, that's a major problem that we face in the U.S. is obesity and these kinds of related diseases that come from being overweight. But it's a burden on everybody, because all of these people that end up with these health-related issues from eating end up being supported by the healthcare industry, and we all kind of are burdened with that at this point. And so it's a good overall step as people choose healthier options. It's good as a society as a whole, really, I think. Now, the other thing is that while we're seeing these kind of unhealthy places get hit, we're starting to see growth in the healthier alternatives. But we're also seeing Monsanto taking a major beating as well. And they announced a week or two ago about they're cutting 2,600 jobs at Monsanto, 12% of its workforce. And so, we're starting to really see the impacts of this food consciousness. And so to me, I think it's really, really positive. And so I guess that's pretty much it. Let's keep moving on here, because we got so much stuff to talk about. There's a story that came out today about how Facebook is going to alert you if the government is hacking into your social media, into your computers and stuff. And so that's kind of interesting, to say the least. I mean, Facebook is cool. I mean, I like using it because this is how we connect with most of the people that are following the anti-media and want to read up on this news. At the same time, we know through the Edward Snowden leaks that Facebook has been working very closely with the NSA and help transfer our information over to the NSA. And so we got to be really careful about what we put on Facebook. And of course, the idea of having privacy on Facebook is kind of, that's kind of become a myth. There's no such thing as privacy on Facebook. Is there still privacy out there on the internet? Yes, but you got to really know what you're doing. And it is important to maintain privacy, because privacy gives you more of an ability to speak out freely. Freedom of speech is very much influenced by privacy, and if you don't have any privacy, well, then freedom of speech ends up suffering as well. And so this thing with Facebook, it's pretty interesting, but to me, it's like, man, they're actually putting it out there that there are governments out there trying to hack into your social media networks and stuff like that. I'm guessing they're not focusing on the U.S. because, they're probably focusing on places like Iran and North Korea, maybe China. I mean, I'm not sure exactly the agenda behind this, but it is pretty interesting, to say the least. I wanted to know what the panel thought about this. First, go ahead.
Oh, if you want even a modicum of privacy online, you have to start with an encrypted browser like Tor. I mean, that's the only way to even get a start. And most hacktivist people claim that the government can still, if they really utilize their resources, they can still unravel where your IP, even if you're scrambling it using an encrypted browser like Tor. But that's the first step to even having a glimpse of privacy online. Otherwise, all your stuff is being aggregated.
Yeah, that's a great point, man. And yeah, Tor itself as well. It can be there are ways to track on that. And people that really know what they're doing, they use Tor and they use a few other things along with it to really hide their tracks and all that kind of thing. I mean, I can't really go too deep into it because I'm not that familiar with the whole technical side of things. But there's definitely tools out there, and there's plenty of articles out there. In fact, that's a good topic. I think we should probably cover on the Anti-Media soon. So maybe in a few weeks we'll be able to talk about this on the radio show more in depth. I think it's something that needs to be taken into account because, governments are always going to try to subvert, whether it's the U.S. government or the Israeli government or the Iranian government or the Russian government, any of these governments. I mean, they're all pretty much, almost all of them are pretty shitty, and they're going to do things to subvert the opposition. And, we all know about the NSA and how the NSA has been doing all this, spying of American stuff, despite all the bullshit lies that they told us that they weren't going to. They have been, and so I guess that brings us up to our next topic, which is Joe Biden, because he's such a seemingly benevolent kind of politician. We all know he's a blundering idiot, and he says a bunch of dumb shit all the time. Like, that's kind of a given with Biden, which is, to me, what makes it so curious as to why he's being drafted for the presidency. Is who in their right mind wants a buffoon that's going to be gaffing it up all, like, who knows when or where, running for the presidency for the party. I mean, that just is a recipe for the Democrats to have a disaster. It's just a disaster on their, waiting to happen. And so to me, it is kind of telling about the state of affairs in electoral politics, because from everything that I've read and everything that I've seen, and knowing how controlled the debates are, knowing how controlled the election is, how the media kind of picks and chooses the winner, it really does seem interesting that they picked Joe Biden, because he does seem like a guy that they're actually picking him so that he could actually lose. You know what I'm saying? And I mean, I don't know. What we do know is that Joe Biden helped. He was like one of the architects of the 1994, what they call the mass incarceration bill, which of course was passed. It was signed into law by Clinton. It was lobbied for by Hillary Clinton. Bill Clinton signed it. He was president at the time. So Joe Biden is very well connected. He's basically partially responsible for the state of mass incarceration in the United States. He's the one that put aside with this bill. They put aside a bunch of funding to build all these prisons and all this shit, and so Biden is definitely a major problem when it comes to the police state. He's probably a drug warrior. He's going to be one of these guys that's in the pocket of the private prison industry. So he's not going to be nice on cannabis legalization and those kind of things. And also, the other thing about Biden that I think is really frightening is that he also helped write the Patriot Act too. And
he's a big pre-crime guy, Nick. Like, he was saying every American should have a brain scan done.
Yeah, I mean, this guy, and he seems like so benevolent, but he's not. He's done a lot of bad things behind the scenes. He's never really taken much flack for the stuff that he's done. But he helped write the Patriot Act long before 9/11. That was in place a long time, and they just didn't have the public support to do it until 9/11. And then everyone's like, okay, just do whatever you can, just keep us safe. Okay, well, is it okay if we take away all your, freedom, all of your privacy? Is that all right? Yeah, as long as you keep us safe from those bad Muslim terrorists, And this is when, they seized the moment. Biden had this legislation sitting in the wings. 9/11 happens. They seize that panic and that fright, that just total era of people being really scared. And they went and used that to pass the Patriot Act, man. And so people like to blame Bush for the Patriot Act. Yeah, he's the one that signed it. But the bipartisan Congress passed it, and Biden is the one that helped author it. So this guy is just a shady character all around. He's majorly part of the establishment. I mean, this is...
douche.
Yeah, definitely. But, the whole thing, and Claire, I want to go back to you on this, because, you wrote an article regarding Bernie Sanders and the way that he was treated by the media following the first Democratic presidential debate. Now, everyone listening knows my stance on the elections. We are not supporting any politician or anything, but I think it is really important to note how these people are treated by the media, because Bernie Sanders was definitely given the Ron Paul treatment after the debate. Like they basically, all the media outlets were like, "Oh, Hillary Clinton won it. No ifs, ands, or buts. That's just it." And Claire, I wanted to see if you can give us a little insight on this media manipulation by the mainstream, and how they use that power of theirs to shape public opinion. Because I think this is exactly what's going to play out here with Biden. Biden, I guess it all depends. I really think he's an insurance policy in case Hillary gets too toxic, to the point where everyone, if Hillary Clinton gets really toxic with this email scandal, because more and more revelations are coming out. In fact, today we covered some on the anti-media. If she gets too toxic and everyone knows, okay, there's no way in hell she's going to win, then it's like, okay, well, then let's give them Biden, and at least we can pretend that Biden is going to actually win against these guys. How does the media coverage play into this, and what can you tell us about how Bernie Sanders was treated after the first debate?
Well, okay, so all these mainstream outlets were basically singing Hillary's praises, like she could do no wrong and she won by a landslide and there was no question. And, who else was there? They really didn't, they didn't really call anybody else but her, and that was it. There were, no questions about it. But when you went and looked at the social media polls and the internet polls that went on during the debates themselves, it was Bernie by a landslide, without a question. In one of the polls, I believe it was USA Today, he won 82% of the votes. And most of the polls were like that. He had tons more followers on Twitter, and just by any measure imaginable, he, quote unquote, won the debates, if there is such a thing. It was so obvious by reading the headlines that were going around that it was supposed to be Clinton. Everybody's supposed to like Hillary. She should have been the winner, blah, 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 blah. So that basically the headlines made her the winner. They made it that way. And this is just more propaganda about elections. They want you to like who they want you to like, and that's, they're going to shove it down your throat no matter what. And there was even a kind of a backlash from Slate. They posted an article explaining why all of mainstream media chose Hillary over Bernie, despite the outrage. And it really didn't have anything of substance to back up the argument except for because we said so. So,
I saw that title propaganda, too. And the title was calling people Bernie Sanders truthers or something like that, too. They were trying, they instantly just made it a crime to say anything that alluded to the fact that, oh no, Bernie won the debate, Hillary Clinton lost it, and the media is trying to just control the narrative. If you say that, then you're a truther and you're just a conspiracy theorist. This is the angle that Salon took, right? And so, it shines a light on the tactics, and this is the tactic that is used all the time. If you disagree with someone, well then you're unpatriotic, or you're a conspiracy theorist, or you're just some, you name it. They make up a name for you and they call you it.
So Salon is good on some things, but they're a strong force for controlled opposition, in my estimation.
Yeah, I don't doubt that at all. It's patently obvious. Yeah, Slate, I linked to them the other day for an article about all the U.S. interventions abroad, and they had an article that covered a bunch of these U.S. interventions, and I linked to them the other day. But on other things, they're horrible. They're right in the pocket of the Democratic establishment on many issues, and any media outlet that does that is just, it's, in my opinion, it's shit. The role of the media isn't to be in the pocket of these corporate political parties. It's to be questioning these corporate political parties. But unfortunately in the U.S., in the U.S. we have partisan media, bro. Almost everybody is they're either conservative like Fox News, and they take the news cycle from the Fox News standpoint and Drudge Report, or they're on the liberal end of things and they take their marching orders from MSNBC and all the power players on that side of the spectrum. And that's why it's so difficult for outlets like the anti-media to gain a huge audience in a short amount of time, is because we're kind of carving out a new path here where it's like, look, we're not left or right. We're gonna show you how shitty both sides are, and if they do something good, then we'll talk about that too. But we're not out there shilling for them. You know what I mean? And so it is a really interesting dynamic that we're dealing with truly independent media, and I being independent as a business structure, and then also independent politically, and not trying to shill for any of these major parties or interests. And so I think that's something really important. And I think that a lot of people that are fans of Bernie Sanders are going to start to get a much more of a grip on the state of the media and how controlled the media is. I think a lot of Bernie Sanders supporters already know that, but if they keep treating him like this in the debates, I mean, it's going to get even worse, and then it's going to be I think we're going to see a backfiring against the media and a backlash against them. We already saw it. I saw a lot of people on my news feed, because a lot of my friends are Bernie Sanders supporters and stuff, and of course we have our disagreements, but I've seen a bunch of people criticizing the media coverage, and to me that's a positive thing, because we need people to understand how controlled the narrative is. We have a couple callers on the line, so I'm going to take the callers before we move on to the next story. First, I'm going to go with the caller from 479 area code. How's it going? You're live on the Anti-Media Radio. What do you want to talk about? 479, you there?
Yo.
Hey, what's up? You're live. What do you want to talk about?
Well, I was just kind of listening, man.
Cool. So we were talking about the election and Bernie Sanders, the media coverage of kind of treating Bernie Sanders badly, and then we got Joe Biden stepping into the race. What do you think of Joe Biden?
Man, I think he's just another. And I'm sorry, man. My kids are sleeping inside, so I had to step outside so I could talk. He's just another. He's pulled by the strings of the same puppeteer, just as they all are. I truly believe, and I think one nation, undivided, indivisible. That's exactly what they've gone and done, is found a way to divide Americans by creating two parties. So you've got people that support one belief, and you've got other people that support another belief, and I'm guilty of this too. I find myself arguing with people for their beliefs and their backlash against me, and all of a sudden I'm pushing against this other person, and in reality, we're both Americans. We're all Americans. We're all human beings. I think we all want freedom,
Looks like we had a little technical glitch there. Hopefully we still have, hopefully everyone's still on the line. But anyway, getting everyone back on here. So, Jake, DB, you guys there?
Yep.
All right, cool. We were getting disconnected from the.
We all back?
Yeah, we're all back. We were getting disconnected from the radio station.
There was some nice elevator music there in the interim. I was quite enjoying that, actually.
Yeah, yeah, it was funny. But yeah, that's our little technical glitch music.
Anyway, back to war crimes.
Back to these war crimes, bro. We gotta pump the crowd up. We had some dead air there, so we're back to the war crime stuff. Anyway. That caller was awesome, man. I'm glad to, it's nice to hear callers that call in and have some really good insight into what's going on, and they see this shit for what it is. It's manipulation, the media. We were talking about how Bernie Sanders got slammed by the media after the debate, and then how they're just manipulating us into supporting Biden, and Biden is a huge buffoon that's probably going to gaffe and lose the election to the Republicans. I mean, this is kind of just stuff, to me, it's obvious stuff, but, it's not going to play out for, until like a year down the line from now. So we're going to have to wait and see, and, see how it goes.
Democrats are better for the military-industrial complex than Republicans because they put a better face on war crimes. Look at Obama.
Yeah, I mean, he's a Nobel Prize winner, and he bombed another Nobel Prize winner, and he kind of got away with it. We
always get away with it, always.
The truly independent media did make a big stink, and we're still covering it. We covered it just 2-3 days ago, again, because they're starting up a new investigation. They're going to be investigating it. The U.S. has been kind of reluctant to consent to this independent investigation.
Joe Biden could adopt a highway on the Arctic shelf, and I wouldn't vote for him.
Oh man.
He could adopt polar bear cubs, and I would not vote for him.
All right, but if he campaigns with a kitten, he may get my vote.
Well, that changes everything.
What if you got a free bottle of whiskey every week?
Again, that changes everything.
Oh man. I think we're joined now by Cassius. What's up, Cassius? How you doing?
Hey, what's up, man? I'm doing good.
We're doing well too.
So,
we had a little technical issues, but we're back.
Yeah, man, it's good to be here. Yeah, so what you were just talking about reminds me of the fact that it is about carving out culture and delivering this information to people. But the actual thing that we can do right now to start solving these issues. So, I think that's what we need to do right now, like exactly what this show is. Whatever we can do to basically proliferate a culture of awareness, because I think we need to do that in more ways than just giving this information to people that already seek it. I think that it would be cool to reach out to people that wouldn't normally hear this kind of information and take more concerted efforts to do stuff like that. And that's how we can improve this whole culture,
Yeah, dude, I agree with you, man. I think it is important to be spreading this information, and as bad as it is sometimes, man. Like, at the beginning of the show, we had some good news out there for people because this shit's happening. It's working. Monsanto's suffering. McDonald's is going down. I mean, shit's happening. If enough of this information spreads, things will change. It may be gradual, and it's frustrating when stuff moves so slow, but revolutions aren't overnight, man. And when they are, those kind of revolutions are never permanent. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, we kicked out our old government, we hired a new one a few months later. It's like, Egypt, how's that working out for you guys over there? You know what I'm saying? It's not working out very well. These I prefer to call them evolutions. It's not an act of revolution, it's evolution, man. And like slowly over time, we can change our ways of doing things. I think if we try to strive for dramatic change overnight, I think that's a kind of a cop out, and it's never going to be what we had hoped it would be. It's a lot of hard work, man, and it's just a constant effort over time where we can evolve and get better and make sure there's less people that are in poverty, less people that are hungry, less people being oppressed, less people being enslaved, less people dying in wars and violence. And, over time we could stem the flow of this stuff with a lot of hard work and spreading information, education, and ideas, and decentralizing and open sourcing and all that stuff. I mean, these are the ways. Exactly, man. These are the ways of moving forward, man. But it's so easy to get discouraged because shit just doesn't happen overnight. I've got friends that were like activists a year ago, and they're like, you know what, I give up. All this work we did against the TPP, and they're still about to pass the TPP. It's like, yeah, dude, we can't just expect it to change in 1 year. It takes a whole lifetime of effort, and then hopefully maybe the generation below you, the following one after that, can maybe start feeling the effects of the work that you're doing right now. And so it's really important to maintain hope, and take the when we do have victories, take them and savor them and all that stuff. Nestle getting sued and all that stuff, or the U.S. Forest Service being sued to stop Nestle. I mean, these are victories that we need to, really soak in and things like that. But then at the same time, just keep up the fight.
I think that we should really let the victories sink in and analyze them to the point where we say, why are we even fighting these corporations? What's the real root of why it's inherently just bad for a society to support a corporation? I think it boils down to being there for fellow people. I think that we have to create basically economic alliances between people and establish some kind of culture where we buy goods from each other. We have our own competing different currencies, and we actually have like a concerted effort to do these things. What if we made our own like little universities to teach philosophy and just all of these things as people? Like, we have the power to do that, so why don't we do that now? That's the kind of thing that I see personally, after seeing all this activist movement unfold and seeing, this whole thing develop in the last 4 years.
Yeah, man. I mean, that's true. Economics is the root of civilization, and if we could change the way we think about our economy and move away from this pyramid scheme economy that we're dealing with right now, then the entire culture would move away from a pyramid scheme. The government, the government's running a pyramid scheme too, with the executive in chief at the top, the president, the king, whatever, the prime minister. Is the guy at the top of the pyramid, and then Congress is the lower level, and then and it goes down from there. And at the very bottom, it's like all that weight's resting on us, on our shoulders, to support it all. But at the same time, it just mirrors our economy, dude. Our economy is run the same way. You got Walmart, you got Amazon, you got Google, you got all these huge ass companies that basically run the show, and everyone else kind of gets the scraps that fall in between and all that stuff, and that's kind of it. And so if we remake our economy, we remake our entire culture, I think. And it's a great point. Yeah,
Agorism, man.
I agree with what you two just said. Definitely, we have to head towards a resource-based economy that is based on radical self-reliance and people being makers, and smaller communities disenfranchised from corporate structures.
Yeah, man, I agree.
Definitely.
That being said, I do want to get through a few more news stories because we are backed up on the news since we didn't have our show Wednesday, our normal show on Wednesday. October 16th, I published a story on the Anti-Media. This was Friday evening about the Veterans for Peace calling for the U.S. public to stand up against this Obama's decision to continue the war in Afghanistan. And, ironically, as we mentioned earlier in the show, Obama, the Nobel Peace Prize winner, is shown no signs of being anti-war at all. In fact, he just opened up a new front in Cameroon, in Africa. And they just sent like 300 troops, American troops, into Cameroon. So now Obama's opened up like his 8th new war since he's been president. I mean, this... we don't hear about this shit on the media. It's like, oh, Obama's conservative on foreign policy, or not conservative, but he's a dove. He's not doing enough. He's not strong enough on foreign policy. Except the truth of the matter is, like, dude, he started 8 new wars, and he's continued on the ones that that Bush had started, and now with his announcement to stay in Afghanistan until at least 2017, and most likely, I mean, come on, we're gonna have a Republican president. The war in Afghanistan is going to become a permanent occupation, basically. Veterans for Peace put out a open letter to the public and to Obama and to the government. I'm just going to read the opening statement here. President Obama's decision to prolong the U.S.-led war in Afghanistan only ensures U.S. responsibility for more death and destruction. Veterans for Peace condemns the decision and calls on the U.S. public to say no to more war. And so, as we were saying, man, it is a matter of us taking the initiative here. We can no longer say, oh yeah, we're just going to vote and Bernie Sanders is going to end the war in Afghanistan. Well, first of all, that's definitely not going to happen because Bernie Sanders and Hillary Clinton have already announced that they basically support what Obama's doing in Afghanistan. And he's neither one of them have shown any sign of stopping.
But you know there's something going on in Afghanistan too. I mean, like when we kind of discovered that raid that they were doing, there's something going on in Afghanistan. There's a reason that they want more troops over there. There's a reason they want to perpetuate the illusion of war, coming aggression, which, invasion. I mean, there's a reason they want to be there. I knew that they were going to say they wanted to put more troops there. I knew the war wouldn't be over as soon as I saw that they had done that illegal raid in that village. I mean, Afghanistan is like one of those areas that we are just never going to get out of.
Claire, would that reason perhaps be a natural gas pipeline?
I do believe that's part of it.
Well, Afghanistan... Go ahead.
I'm just going to say Afghanistan's got enough lithium to last for the next century.
That too.
Yep, and there's like several trillion bucks worth of minerals in Afghanistan, and we can't forget the good old opium trade, and that's where they're getting all the opium to make the OxyContin for all these people that are doped up on prescription drugs. For 12-year-olds. For those not aware, we're now prescribing OxyContin to 12-year-olds.
They need it, man. They need it.
So
Unless they make opiate yeast.
well, yeah, that too. Cassius wrote an article a few months ago about how they're developing a genetically modified yeast strain that will produce opiates, and so that's scary on its own. Yeah, GM opiates. Now, I'm taking a direct quote from an article in the Anti-Media called "Bernie and Hillary Come Out in Favor of Perpetual War in Afghanistan." So, speaking in an ABC interview with George Stephanopoulos on Sunday morning, Bernie Sanders defended the position that the U.S. military is needed to keep the peace in the Middle East, particularly in Afghanistan. And here's a quote directly from Bernie Sanders. He says, "Well, yeah, I won't give you the exact number. Clearly, we do not want to see the Taliban gain more power, and I think we need a certain nucleus of American troops present in Afghanistan to try to provide the training and support the Afghan army needs." So basically, once again, Bernie Sanders is towing Obama's talking points here. He's saying the exact same thing that Obama has been saying. And Hillary Clinton, in a recent interview with Boston Globe, she said, quote, "I admire the fact that the president has very strong positions about trying to end wars and bring people home," which is exactly the right place to be in, but is not so doctrinaire, absolutionist, that no matter what the circumstances are, that he's going to stick to his position. You have a position of responsibility and a real obligation to make sure the best decisions possible, and I know that's what he did on this one, referring to Afghanistan. So Hillary is like, yeah, Obama's anti-war, guys. And that's great, but he did the right thing here, and that's not really surprising coming from Hillary Clinton because she's basically voted for every single war that's ever existed whenever she was in office, because she is an absolute warmongering neocon, and there's no hiding that. And that's why there's nobody excited about Hillary Clinton. That's why people are kind of excited about Bernie Sanders, and that may be the same reason why they're bringing Joe Biden into the picture, because they know that nobody likes Hillary. Anyway.
Does this remind anybody else of War is Peace from Orwell?
Just a little bit. Just a little bit, because the anti-war president, he's sticking it out in Afghanistan. That's the anti-war thing to do.
What would Orwell say from his grave? 1984 was supposed to be not an instruction manual or something?
He was supposed to be a warning, not an instruction manual.
Yeah, right.
Oh man! So Cassius wrote an article recently, still on the topic of Afghanistan, about this the bombing of the Doctors Without Borders hospital, the MSF. I'm really bad with my French, but Médecins Sans Frontières.
Médecins Sans Frontières.
Okay, yeah. Sorry, I was horrible with that. I'm good with Spanish, but the French thing I can't hang with. But Cassius, you wrote an article about how pending investigation, that the investigation hasn't started yet because they're waiting for the United States and Afghanistan to consent to an independent investigation. Now we know that that's probably not likely to happen. But in the meantime, apparently they thought it was a good idea to drive a tank down to this hospital and bust right through the walls and drive right into the hospital without taking without being sensitive to the evidence or any of the stuff that's going on there. So they literally bulldozed into this hospital, and the people from the MSF put out a statement saying, "Hey, you guys rolled into the hospital and you destroyed evidence on your way in." Cassius, what can you tell us about this?
Well, first of all, I'd like to say what I didn't say in the article, which is I think that could infer some kind of maybe a deeper thing than disrespect for the organization, because that is unbelievably disrespectful. I mean, how can that possibly not be some kind of sign or notion of, like, fuck you still? I mean, so, I mean, they rolled over the hospital with a tank without announcing they were going to show up. I mean, it seems like a sign, or it seems like some kind of real, deliberate, thing of disrespect. But anyway, I've been watching the videos that the organization released about the before and after pictures, and I watched an interview, and strangely enough, the day the interview was up, like I think the day after it happened, the interview was taken down later, but it's like an initial statement from not the president of MSF, but another person in the organization. And, well, I just think it's unbelievable. Possibly the most unbelievable part about this to me is the fact that everyone in the world's eyes, I feel like, were on the U.S. Like, what are you going to do now after the Russian airstrikes in Syria began? I feel like everyone's eyes were on the U.S., and it's like, what are you going to do now? What's your next move? And then they go and bomb a hospital?
Yeah, and that was a bad move, and then running the tank in there, even worse, man. But hopefully this continues to open the eyes of people that aren't aware of the egregious war crimes going on over there, the endless, perpetual war. Unfortunately, Bernie Sanders is for it, Hillary Clinton's for it. We all know the Republicans are for it, so maybe it's time to look for an alternate option. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. That was the Anti-Media Radio Show. We're here 5 days a week. Catch you all tomorrow night, same place, same time.